My inheritance has cost me. The car and gadgets are nice. And I've almost gotten used to the smell in the cave. It's the criminals. Since my father died, they've focused their attention on me.
Hey man, somebody killed this lady.
And the people around me. My father's enemies have gotten more twisted with age, more violent and suicidal.
Crashing destroyed with no survivors.
Because they know their inevitable end is near. They've seen Batman die. They've seen each other die.
I can't believe they killed him. Yeah, man, things are getting really bad out here.
The Riddler.
This puzzle is far more than any mere game.
Dr. Death.
You and I go way back, Batman.
Two-Face.
I still believe in Harvey Dent.
All gone. Like the life I hoped for beyond this mask. Everything I have, everything I am, is because of him. I'm the Batman's daughter. I am the Huntress. And tonight, I'm hunting the man who destroyed my life.
Hello and welcome to the Huntress Podcast. This is episode 30. I'm Ashford, and along with me is Laurel. Hello, Laurel.
Hi, Ashford. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, and along with us is Diane. Diane, how are you?
Doing okay. Survived a very brutal work week, but doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing well as well. I'm glad that you're with us, the three of us. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about All-Star Comics featuring the JSA number 73. Laurel, is that right?
Yep, from 1978. We're doing Helena Wayne this time. We've been alternating back and forth between Helena Wayne and Helena Bertinelli, so this will be like all new to me. I was happy to read this one, so looking forward to discussing it today.
All right, so I'm going to the website, and that is thehuntress.podcast.com, and we had some people leave some messages for us for the last time we talked about Helena Wayne's Huntress, the original, one might say. This is from Tim Price. It was when we talked about All-Star Comics number 72. And Tim Price, he writes, "What a fun issue. I love that it only took 2 issues for Huntress to be inducted into the JSA. Nowadays, such a step would have taken much longer. So it was a joy to remember when new members of the team books happen all the time. And having her working well side by side with the veteran members was great. Glad I wasn't the only one confused by the dialogue implying her father had died. As I'm reading along with the show, I seriously thought I was losing it. Sure, I'm senile, but didn't think it gotten that bad yet. Bullet dodge. I only knew about Golden Age Huntress from Who's Who, and that entry probably mentioned this confrontation. So I'm excited to read the next issue. Thanks again, Hun Trio." And the Hun Trio, that's us. It's 3 of us, and we're covering Huntress. And then we got an email. Isn't that correct? At feathersandfoes@gmail.com.
Yes, we did. It's from Mark Ross, and I think we've used his call sign one other time at Cluck Trent. I think we talked about him before, but his name is Mark Ross, and he says, "Hi, Ashford. I haven't written in a while, so I thought I'd let you know I'm still listening to and enjoying the Huntress Podcast and Feathers and Foes. I like that you are also covering Helena Wayne stories, as I've never read any of them." You and me both. "I'm really enjoying back and forth between the two Helenas. For Birds of Prey, I was beginning to think I wasn't liking it as much with the one issue with the other writer," and I'm going to skip the rest of this since it's up Birds of Prey. Then it goes on to, "I want to thank you, Laurel, Diane, and Mark for keeping the episodes coming during this crazy time. I'm praying for all of you and your families. Stay well, Mark." I thought that was terribly sweet. What a sweet email to send us. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, and I really appreciate it too, because I have fun, just reading the comics and then talking about it with you two. That's just fun itself. So the fact that people are listening along and adding comments, that's great. And the 3 of us, we talked about the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie. Mm-hmm. And we had 2 comments of that. We uploaded it back on February 17th, 2020. And back in February, Tim wrote, Tim Price, I enjoyed your conversation a lot. A fun listen, my friends. Put me in the camp of viewers that wished this was rated PG-13 rather than rated R. My daughters are 14 and they would not have enjoyed the degree of violence or the language. I can't say it was bad to go for an R rating, just wondering what would have been. Thanks, gang. And we also got a reply from Steven. He wrote, one of my preferred statements from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the point at which Clint's character says, you see, right now, two sorts of, it says 123 movies, individuals. Oh, buddy. So I'm going to quote that again. It says, you see, right now, two sorts of individuals. Oh, buddy. Those who stack weapons and the individual who burrow. You borrow. So I don't know what that means exactly, but we read it aloud. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it was really nice of folks to write in about that. That was a wonderful discussion.
So I haven't seen the Birds of Prey movie for a second time. I know they've released it digitally, but I'm still holding out because they're going to release the movie. I want to get the Blu-ray. It's sometime in early May. But I did write a review finally for the movie, and it's on the Huntress Podcast.com website. It's pretty long. I don't know what I was thinking. And Diane, thank you for helping me format it so it would actually fit on the website. So, well, let's get into this one. We're talking about All-Star Comics featuring the JSA number 73. Diane, what do you think about the cover?
Well, the first thing I think about is that it's very action-packed. You've got basically 3 storylines being conveyed with the cover of All-Star number 73. Beginning with the fact that we've got, the Huntress versus the Huntress, which is actually really cool. You've got, Helena Wayne at the mercy of the Paula Brooks Huntress. She wants to, and we've got the confident-looking Paula Brooks. She's got that look of, I've got you trapped, my dear. And then you've got the sportsmaster right next to her. And the sportsmaster is actually the villainous Huntress's husband. And we've got Power Girl, right behind him. Looks frustrated. It looks like she's being ignored by the sportsmaster. And so we've got the Flash fighting the sportsmaster instead. And then we've got, the Thorn, with Wildcat looking like his life was hanging by a thread because he was poisoned by it. So I like the fact that we've got a cover that's conveying 3 storylines or 3 scenarios that are taking place in this one story, and it's really action-packed. It really entices me to find out what's going on in the interior pages.
Laurel, what do you think about the cover of one of the best superhero teams ever assembled? All-Star Comics presents the legendary Justice Society.
I really liked it. It's something that I don't know that we see enough of anymore with the little, the 3-paneled sort of action sequences like Diane was describing. I don't know that we get this kind of cover anymore, but it really works here. It's got discreet, but they're also like the characters are also breaking the panel walls, which is neat. So it looks like it's all happening at the same time all together, but it's not confused. You can tell who is fighting who, what's going on. And of course, my personal favorite, this stuff actually does take place in the book, which, that's the era. Ashford, how about you?
I dig the cover. It's awesome. And Thorn in this, she has this, the actress in Bewitched, her mother, the actress that would play her mother.
Yes.
She kind of has that vibe going on. So I don't know if that was an influence. But this is awesome. It is. And Wildcat's face is very realistic, like his chin and stuff. Like everyone else looks kind of comic book cartoony, but he kind of has like a realism going there. So yeah, I'm just absolutely delighted by this cover and really this story because I feel like these 2 issues is just where it's at. Diane, if you would, could you please give us the synopsis to All-Star Comics number 73?
Absolutely. So All-Star Comics number 73 opens up to 3 different scenarios. Wildcat lying comatose in a hospital bed succumbing to the Thorn's poison, the Thorn herself still on the loose, and the Huntress getting ambushed at the JSA headquarters in Gotham by her villainous namesake. Over at the Keystone Hospital, Wildcat's life is hanging on by a very thin thread and cannot afford to wait any longer for treatment. Realizing that the Huntress has taken too long to return with the Icicle's ray gun, the Justice Society decide to check up on her. Using the hospital's own television, the Green Lantern uses his power rings magic to get a glimpse of the JSA headquarters in Gotham. There, the team notice the peril that the Huntress is in. The Green Lantern departs the hospital to provide assistance to the Huntress, while Flash and Power Girl depart to search the entire city for the Thorn. At the JSA headquarters in Gotham, the more villainous Huntress continues her assault on the younger, more heroic Huntress. Realizing she has to fight back if she is to fulfill her task and get back to Keystone City in time to save Wildcat, the Huntress manages to capture her more villainous namesake in a stranglehold and maintains this position until she starts begging for air. Reminding herself that she is not a murderer, the younger Huntress releases her stranglehold and tries to reason with her villainous namesake. Instead, the villainous Huntress uses the opportunity to trip the young heroic Huntress into another trap. The Green Lantern arrives just in time to prevent the villainous Huntress from doing further harm to a younger namesake, but is not himself prevented from falling victim to one of her traps. Taking advantage of the fact that her villainous namesake is distracted with the Green Lantern, the younger Huntress uses the opportunity to retrieve the Icicle's ray gun from the JSA's trophy room. No longer burdened with the responsibility of needing to retrieve the gun, the Huntress is able to fight back with a clear head. Taking advantage of the villainous Huntress's narcissism, the Huntress waits for her villainous namesake to get close to one of her own traps before setting it off with one of her own crossbow bolts. With her task fulfilled, the Huntress and Green Lantern make their way back to Keystone City. Back in Keystone, Power Girl is able to locate the Thorn across town, where Jay Garrick's lab and his wife reside. Realizing that the Thorn has targeted his wife, the Flash rushes over to his home along with Power Girl to stop her. On arrival, they are met with the Sportsmaster, who decides to take on Power Girl, while the Flash goes immediately to his wife's aid. Together, they eventually put a stop to the Sportsmaster and the Thorn's assault and manage to get the Flash's wife to safety. With both villains now captured, the Flash and Power Girl meet Huntress and Green Lantern back at the hospital to help Wildcat. After a couple of hours, Wildcat's surgery is a success, and their comrade is reunited with his team, but Dr. Fate and Hawkman are nowhere to be found, as both have been spirited away to another dimension. And this concludes All-Star Comics number 73.
Yes, that was awesome. I just want to talk about, give some credits real quick. This came out August 1978, covered by Joe Staton. Writers Paul Levitz, of course, inside the book, penciler Joe Staton. Inkers Joe Giella. Colorist Adrian Roy. Letterers Todd Klein. And editor Joe Orlando. So, Laurel, take it away.
All right. Well, we got a lot going on in this between the two Huntresses, which can be a little confusing, obviously. But I was curious, Diane, you know more about the background of these characters than we do. Why did Huntress, our Helena Wayne Huntress, choose the name Huntress when this villain, they do say that she forgot, but I was curious, is there another reason that you know about by any chance, the writers or something, or was this just a mistake or what?
Well, within the story's narrative, the Helena Wayne Huntress is actually aware of who her parents are, and also the Justice Society of America. I mean, they're kind of, the main superhero team of Earth 2. So she's very aware of the history of the team. She's very much aware of some of the villains that they've encountered. And this is something that, we'll learn more about, in Adventure Comics when Helena Wayne actually recounts, why the JSA disbanded back in the 1950s. But yes, Helena Wayne is actually aware of the fact that, the JSA has a rogues gallery of their own and is aware of some of them. But when she took on the name of the Huntress, she was not thinking about the Justice Society. She wasn't even thinking about joining the team at the time that she took on the name, she was thinking of the fact that her mother died, and the loss of that, the traumatic loss of that person in her life, put, a real dent in her life as she knew it. So Helena Wayne's mind at the time was, my mother is dead. The killer is out there. My father won't do anything about it. So it's up to me to capture this man, put him in his place, seek justice for my mother. So she was actually taken into account that she is part of a larger legacy, in this case, her parents' legacy. So she was thinking, what's the best way to honor both of my parents? How do I honor the fact that my mother was Catwoman and my father was Batman without being either Batman or Catwoman? So she decided, well, why not the name Huntress? Because what do bats and cats have in common? They both hunt. Certain species of bats are hunters, while other species of, bats, eat fruits and other stuff. But yes, there is species of bats who are hunters, and cats are always hunters. So she figured, take the two traits, take the one trait that the two animals have in common and form an identity around that. And that's how she came up with the name Huntress. So she was not thinking of Paula Brooks when she decided to take on the name. It was not until she actually embarked on her first official mission with the Justice Society that she actually encountered the Paula Brooks Huntress. And that's when she remembered, oh yeah, there is another Huntress out here. And she's not exactly a nice person.
That's one way to put it. This was quite a battle. Ashford, what did you think of this battle? I mean, these two women are really going at it.
Okay, so it's pretty interesting that the Huntress had enough time to booby trap the headquarters, right? Mm-hmm. And no, it was awesome. I love the whole thing of, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Just the planning that the villainous Huntress put into it. And I like this whole thing of, man, Helena Wayne, she earned it. I mean, she fought back. There was one time where she got tricked, and she actually took her down rather quickly and then got tricked and had to start up again. But when she was trapped in the glass, I started getting just seeing that got me claustrophobic myself. I started feeling like I couldn't breathe. But the battle between them, yeah, it was epic. So like if a comic book reader at that time, once they were developing the Helena Wayne character, if they knew, wait a minute, isn't there a villain named Huntress? I think they answered that question and went, we're going towards a new age. And, in this new age now, this will be, using the definitive article, the Huntress.
When I was looking at this, in some ways, I wondered if she was, I don't know if I say naive. I mean, she's just new to the position, so to speak, new to the superhero biz. But she manages to get around these traps quite well and takes down the villainous Huntress, as we're calling her. The only thing that I was concerned by, do you think that she was naive to let her go and stand up without holding some sort of weapon on her or anything? Or did that bother either one of you? Or is it just because she's new? I don't know. Diane, what did you think? Your opinion on that when she let the other Huntress go, and the other Huntress then tricks her into this glass box trap?
Well, when Helena Wayne actually captured her, she captured her in a stranglehold. So she was actually choking Paula Brooks. Now, if she had maintained that stranglehold any longer, she probably would have killed her. And I think, and you saw the look on her face, as she was choking Paula Brooks, or rather she was strangling Paula Brooks there, she had a very fierce, very determined look on her face, and Paula did look genuinely helpless there. So I think that Helena Wayne was taking into account, I could do the very easy thing here, and I could, make this woman comatose, even borderline, dead, But I think she's thinking of the fact that she doesn't want to be a murderer, so the other Huntress is very clearly a murderer. She's got murderous intent. And the Helena Wayne Huntress, she wants to set herself apart from that. So yes, she could have done the simple thing of, choking her to death, strangling her, let her go comatose, but she doesn't want to be that person. She wants to do the right thing. And she wants to, set herself apart from the other Huntress, because if she actually kills the Paula Brooks Huntress, how is she different from Paula Brooks? You know, she actually killed someone. So I think that was what's going on in Helena Wayne's mind. She had two things going on in her mind here. She actually had to retrieve the Icicle's ray gun to help Wildcat. So that's the first thing that's on her mind when this fight is taking place. You know, she's thinking, you know what, I've got a responsibility here. I really don't have time for this. But at the same time, you know, I can't let this woman kill me. So in the scenes prior to the stranglehold, she's thinking about the fact that she needs to save Wildcat. She needs to, which is a very, you know, which is a time sensitive endeavor that she's in. It's a very time sensitive task. So she doesn't exactly have time to, you know, fight, you know, the more villainous Huntress. You know, she has a task to do. So all of that is in her mind when Paula Brooks, you know, catches her off guard and starts to fight her for the name of the Huntress. So she's also thinking of the fact, I don't have time for this. This is so stupid. I don't need, you know, I shouldn't have to fight for a title when there's another man's life on the line. So she's got a lot in her mind. And of course, the simple thing would have been to just, you know, kill the other Huntress and be done with that and go and do what she has to do. But she's not a murderer. And I think that's why she let Paula Brooks go. You know, it might have been naive for her to think that Paula Brooks wasn't going to try and trick her or do anything, you know, upon letting her go. But I think, you know, priority number one for Helena Wayne is, I'm not a murderer, but I do have a task to fulfill. And I'm trying to save a man's life. You know, I don't have time to deal with this other Huntress. Certainly not over a name that, you know, that both of us happen to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. She's got two minds there, and she does say that this was her priority, and she wanted to not have to deal with this. I do have to sort of chuckle a little bit because I find it funny that I'm going to call her the Paula Brooks Huntress because it's just too confusing. The Paula Brooks Huntress set up these traps, quote unquote, knowing that our Huntress was going to arrive, which is a little ironic because we were saying last issue when we talked about it that Green Lantern just sort of usurped Huntress, put her in a bubble and sent her off back to JSA headquarters in a different city without, you know, really consulting her. And she felt very dismissed by that. And yet here's this trap is set up for her specifically. So I had to chuckle a little bit that we didn't explain why the Huntress knew that Helena Wayne Huntress was going to be there. So I just sort of chalked that up to, well, you know, that's just how comic books work. But we do have, when Green Lantern figures out that she's in trouble and shows up, I was concerned that he might talk down to her again, because that's what happened when he put her in the bubble and sent her off. And I thought, geez, you know, I really don't like that attitude of his very much. And I was afraid he was going to keep doing it here. But when he got knocked out and it was down to the Huntress on the Huntress to save everybody and she pulls it off, it's like finally she has his approval without having any sort of caveat on that. We get a nice little grin from her when she sort of basks a little in that glow, which I appreciated. She's come into her own. She's claimed the name. I appreciated that we followed up on the problem with Green Lantern that she had last issue, and here we are. You know, he still was sort of, I was really worried when he rescued her. Ashford, what did you think of their dynamic there with her and Green Lantern and the whole team dynamic?
I'm going to have to read 72 again because I think Green Lantern, he was a victim of plotting because like you were mentioning before, like, oh, that was pretty convenient that the Huntress had this all set up for the Huntress. But then again, hey, you can read that as if she didn't care if the whole gang came back. All those traps were for 5 people. Mm-hmm. But, you know, this was all about like, you know, what does the writer need? The writer need for Huntress to go back so she can face the Huntress for namesake battle. So you're saying like, well, yeah, that was interesting in this issue. Like Alan Scott, he wasn't patronizing. Well, we already served that part of the plot of them two fighting it out. So that's why he didn't, I guess he wasn't like, you know, Huntress, what are you doing? Why that? Because the plot doesn't call for that anymore. So that's why last time we covered this, I didn't see it as him being dismissive because I knew what was coming because I read this 2 years ago. And I knew because of plotting, it had to be her. So like maybe they could have done better where she was like, maybe Huntress could have said, Green Lantern, send me back in a green bubble and then I will come back. But I mean, I don't know. So that's why, I mean, I liked it. I think that as far as the team dynamic in this one, they were great.
Diane, how about you? This is sort of, we've not had her introduced with too many members at the moment. You know, she was doing more with Wildcat. Now here she is interacting more with Green Lantern. Did you like how this is being handled as her introduction to the DC is happening?
Well, one of the major themes that Paul Levitz wanted to touch upon when he wrote the JSA during the 1970s, he wanted to explore the concept of generational legacy and how different generations have different ideas about things. They bring different attitudes and a whole bunch of other things to the table that maybe, you know, don't see eye to eye with the previous generation. So the previous generation of JSA heroes, they've got a set way of doing things. You know, they've got an idea of how things should be, and this doesn't necessarily match up with the younger generation. So I think that between the Alan Scott Green Lantern and the Helena Wayne Huntress, they wanted to show those generational differences. So we've got Alan Scott, you know, shipping Helena off to Gotham to capture the ray gun. And from his point of view, he's not doing anything wrong. You know, he's just, you know, sending the Huntress home. You know, she knows where the JSA headquarters is. She's kind of new to the JSA headquarters. You know, this kind of gives her an opportunity to kind of, you know, familiarize herself more with how they do things. And, you know, they also had to act quickly. That was the other thing as well. You know, they had, you know, the Wildcat, you know, hanging off on a very thin thread. So yeah, he could have technically sent Power Girl there or the Flash, and they could have gotten there a lot faster. But his mind is, you know what, you're new here. You kind of need to get to know how we do things. You kind of have to be orientated to what we do. And so I think that was the other reason that he sent her specifically and not one of the other ones who could have quickly gotten it. You know, so he was saying, you're new here, you kind of get to know your place here. So we're going to, you know, send you off on a mission just for you. And Helena Wayne, of course, took that the wrong way. She's like, hey, I know I'm new here, but that doesn't mean that you can, you know, kind of send me off on a menial task that doesn't really play up to my strengths as a huntress. So she kind of interpreted that differently. And she didn't want to, you know, be treated like the new kid on the block. You know, she wanted to utilize all of her skills, such as her detective skills, her fighting skills. She didn't want to be sent off to do a menial task like fetching a ray gun out of the JSA trophy room and then come back. It's like, this is not a good use of my skills, you know. And I think that's what's going on in her head. So the generational differences, I think, is what they were trying to convey there. You know, Alan Scott has one way of thinking. Helena Wayne's got another way of thinking. The way that they think is informed both by experience and age, and they're not exactly on the same page. So I think that's what they were doing there.
Well, I liked that in her, when she does fight, and she does get to bask in the glow a little bit. But I loved that it was her cunning, you know, that she was sneaky about her collapsible crossbow, and that the Paula Brooks did not account for that in this fight. So when she pulls it out to, basically, I don't think we went into detail. What happens is Helena Wayne takes out, you know, the collapsible crossbow. It is stored on her calf. And she takes that out real quick, and the Paula Brooks is standing underneath one of her own traps, which is a net, and Helena neatly snaps the line. The net captures Paula. So it was like, you know, she outthought her, and she was sneaky about it, which I like. The fact that she had something she could pull out to use, and she even makes mention of that. You know, you don't show your claws just for show. Let's see. Where did she say that? I just really like that because Paula Brooks is complaining that, oh, you know, Thorne didn't tell me you had this crossbow. And I'm like, well, you know, that's how you think on your feet. That's what's important in these kind of fights. And Helena had it. So to me, it's like, yeah, you know what? I think she's earned this name. She's taken the other lady down with her guts, basically, with her knowledge and her, I don't know, planning. Is it pre-planning? Would you call that when she's careful about hiding something that she can use later? I'm not exactly sure what term I should use for that.
Probably because she didn't know about it, since a real huntress doesn't bare her claws just for show. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then Alan Scott goes, and just for the record, I think this establishes who has a right to the name. He had to throw like it's crazy. Like okay, fans. So for the record, I want to put this out there. Like, no, I was gonna just say she was the Huntress anyway. It didn't have to be said aloud, but that's okay.
I like that they said
Yeah.
it. Oh, go ahead, Diane. I'm sorry.
I think she was also exploiting Paula Brooks' narcissism here. So we're kind of seeing how, Helena Wayne kind of shifts the situation back to her favor. So we've got, the Paula Brooks. How did this whole fight start? It all started with Paula Brooks feeling offended that some young lassie had taken up her name, the Huntress, a name that she's been using for, 4 decades at this point. So 3 to 4 decades. And she's thinking, well, this is my name. This is my title. I deserve it. She's got that going on in her mind. And Helena Wayne is like, okay, so I'm in this petty fight because a woman much older than me is upset that I took her name. So I think that she also exploited the narcissism of Paula Brooks Huntress and used that to her advantage. So she waited for Paula Brooks to fall under one of her own traps, and use the opportunity to kind of humiliate her. So, and I think that's kind of what happened there. So Paula Brooks was like, "What? I did not see you with a crossbow." It's like, yeah, well, the crossbow was kind of right there in her boot. It's not exactly invisible, but she's got a utility belt. So unless she's blind, but she was not really thinking about that. She was thinking of the fact that, some young lassie stole my name and I'm going to do something about that. And so Helena Wayne realized, okay, I'm in a very stupid fight right now over something that I would have fought another kid with in high school or in school. I'm not going to deal with a grade school level fight. So I think that she was just waiting for the right moment to capture Paula and kind of use her own narcissism against her. So she kind of waited for her to fall under her own trap. And she's like, yeah, I gotcha. Mm-hmm. Bam. So she pulls out the crossbow, lets the net fall on her. And I think she kind of did that to humiliate her as well. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, you fell in your own trap. That's on you, man.
Someone should introduce Paula Brooks to the Flash, and the Flash, and Green Lantern, Green Lantern.
Everybody using those names. Yeah. Just because somebody's using her names doesn't mean it's an insult. I do like, though, that they set up the Huntress, because I thought when she grabbed the icicles freeze ray, is that what we were getting? What are our MacGuffin here? And so when she did that, but they did set it up as I can't get out the door without fighting the other Huntress. I can't get out of here without defeating her. I like that they did that. So it wasn't just an ego thing for Helena Wayne, like, I'm going to show her. No, it was I can't get out of here and she's in my way. I have to go through her. That was a nice thing that the writers did, because like we were saying, I criticized a little bit. Yeah, it was sort of a gimme that they set this fight up. But I'm glad that they did try to explain why she took on this extra step and she's wasting this extra time, because otherwise I would have been disappointed in her for not worrying about, hey, I've got to really get this thing back for Wildcat quickly. So I really appreciated that. If you guys are ready, I'd like to try to move on to the other parts of this book, which I think, I was surprised. I have to say, Diane, I say this all the time. I'm so glad you have us reading these, because this was really good. I enjoyed this a whole lot. We've got the drama of Ted being a Wildcat there. He's dying. He's got to have this procedure done. They need the icicle ray to help him. And then the Flash and Power Girl, and something that I'm curious to see what y'all think of in 1978. Here we have Jay Garrick, the Flash, lamenting that he has given up his secret identity, and here someone is coming after his wife. I thought that was kind of interesting. You don't see that a lot going back, and I'm curious if either one of you have an opinion on that they use that in this book.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is, why would Jay Garrick reveal his identity to the public when he's married, and the danger he would put his loved ones in? So that was the first thing that came to my mind, is why would Jay Garrick reveal his identity at all when he's married, he's got a family, and he's got friends and colleagues that are close to him. And the other danger to that as well is that he could potentially expose his JSA friends as well. So if they see, Jay Garrick hanging out with Alan Scott, because Alan Scott, by this point in his story, he's no longer the CEO of, what was it, Gotham Broadcasting Company. That was the company that he started. And he can no longer do that anymore. He went bankrupt. So he took a job as an engineer with Jay Garrick at his lab. So he's potentially exposing not only the immediate people in his life, but also he's risking exposing the identities of his JSA comrades, Alan Scott included. So that was the first thing that I thought about, is why did he do that in the first place? And considering, how many people he knows and who he could potentially expose to danger. So, I was wondering, why did he do that in the first place? And then, of course, we see the fallout of that. So I'm like, so what is Jay Garrick going to do now that, the Thorn and the Sportsmaster went after his wife? They're going to have Dr. Fate, make everyone forget who he is, or what's going on there. But Dr. Fate's not even in, he's not even on Earth right now. So, I just thought that was an odd decision that he made. Perhaps an irresponsible one, because, well, we're seeing what happened in doing so.
Ashford, I was curious, not just about the Jay Garrick stuff, but the Power Girl and how they've portrayed her. I liked her in this. I liked her attitude. She was tough without being ridiculous about it, which I appreciate, which I think sometimes it's overcompensated. You and I are getting ready for the JLMA, and I've been reading the JSA from the Jeff Johns era, and they don't quite get the subtlety sometimes with her that I think that they have here, this nice brash going forward without all the baggage. I don't know. What did you think of that?
I just think it's so fun to read these books, as far as right now I'm on issue 1 of All-Star Comics. So you're seeing Jay Garrick. He's a young guy. And then I just love this passing of the torch where, all right, the JSA is a little bit older, so let's have a second generation of heroes. And that's where we get Power Girl and the Huntress. It's just fun stuff. I did and I like the fact that she heard from a distance, because she has that superpower. Wait a minute, I think your wife is in trouble. So otherwise Jay Garrick would have never known. Isn't that something? Yeah. Yeah,
that was the scary part of the whole thing. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else? I wanted to talk about the art, if I could do that, because I have to say, this is some good stuff in here. We got a nice... the fight, like I said, is very clear. Some nice facial expressions. I mean, you can practically feel Helena go from worry to glow in this thing from panel to panel as we go along. It's just wonderful. The self-confidence and stuff we see. I really appreciated that in this comic. I hope you guys agree with me. Diane, how about you?
I definitely agree, and that's something that, Joe Staton is very consistent about. Not only is he great with panel layout, but he's also good about depicting action sequences. His depiction of motion is very fluid, and it's also very kinetic, very energetic. And you've got the facial expression. So you've got, Helena Wayne during the fight scene with Paula Brooks. She's got a very concerned and very worried look on her face, and the concern is that, what Wildcat's life is hanging on a thread. And I'm dealing with, another Huntress who is having a pissing match over the name. So I like the fact that he captures that, about Helena Wayne. She's concerned about her friend Wildcat, who is literally her first teammate. He's the first person that she teamed up with from the JSA. So I guess, he's a very important person to her. And she's got that concerned look, the whole time that this battle with, Paula Brooks is happening. And then she suddenly goes from concerned to very annoyed, very pissed off. I kind of want to break your neck right now. And she's got that look on her face when she's got Paula Brooks in the stranglehold. She's got that fierce, mean look on her face, like, I am cross, I am annoyed that this is happening. And she kind of looks, kind of murderous in that one instant, that one panel. She looks like she wants to snap her neck there, but eventually Helena comes to her senses and realizes, this is not who I am. This is not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be like this person, who's having, a murderous fight over a name. I'm not going to be that. And so I like that Joe Staton really does a great job at capturing that. And then when Helena Wayne finally gets to fulfill the task that she was sent there for in the first place, we see that confident look on her face. She's like, when Paula Brooks is asking, hey, where did that other huntress go? She's like, right here, by the trophy room. And now that I've got what I've come for, we can finally settle this name game once and for all. So she's got that confident look on her face. It's really fun. And then when she finally gets the opportunity to, humiliate Paula by capturing her under her own trap, she's got that look of, she's got kind of a sarcastic look, but it's also very calm and subtle. And then when she finally catches Paula in her own trap, she's got that, I gotcha. She's got that gotcha look on her face. And then she's, and then she goes from that to, oh my God, we've wasted a lot of time already. We need to get back to the hospital. So I like how Joe Staton really goes from, yes, I finally took care of this. I am the best. She's got that look on her face, followed by, oh no, we really get to get out of here soon and fast. So, Joe Staton really, really knocks it out of the park again with the artwork. And of course, you've got the fight sequences with the Sportsmaster and Power Girl, which were kind of hilarious because, the Sportsmaster's like trying to use a dead man's hand on a woman who is invulnerable. So sharp cards would probably, bend or snap or break on Power Girl. And Power Girl dodges them anyway. I'm going to assume that she was trying to, I guess she was either not thinking or she was not trying to give away the fact that she's invulnerable, even though it could have probably led to a hilarious moment where the dead man's hand, led to a dead card's hand, I guess. And then she picked up, a rock and tossed it like an American football and, knocked him into a tree trunk, which is it was a tree branch. So that was kind of funny. And there was also that mention of, oh yeah, in Britain they call this football and in America we call it soccer. And I'm like, it's not just Britain that calls it football.
Everybody else.
Everybody
except
calls
for
it
us.
football.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I had a moment reading that. I'm like, it's football. My Colombian self will die on that hill.
It's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, Lord Ashford, did you like the art in this one?
Okay, the artwork is beautiful. In the Avengers movie where Tony Stark and Peter Parker, they're on the spaceship and Tony Stark has to give Spider-Man like, hey, I'm going to knight you. I'm going to ordain you. You're an Avenger now. And it's a part where they play like this kind of this music and it's real quick. And the actor that's playing Spider-Man, at first he shows excitement. Then he shows a little dread. And then he has a stiff upper lip. And the actor does that with his face all in a second. And my favorite part of this whole book is when, Alan Scott goes, so I'm pretty sure this makes, Helena Wayne the Huntress now. And he goes, right, Huntress? And they show this panel of Helena looking proud, like, yeah, I am the Huntress. And, I guess I'm being accepted by one of the elder. And then, bam, the next panel, she has that despair because she can't celebrate right now. She can't listen to the trumpets, the brr, 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 because now she goes straight into thinking about Wildcat. And I loved it. It was acting. Like Joe Staton, he's drawing action and he's also drawing these characters in depth and complexity as far as inner struggle, just inner thoughts and acting.
Yeah. One nice little touch too, in that same two panels there you were talking about, they have the shadow of Helena Wayne's head, and it's got the ears, looks like bat ears in the shadow that are her mask, the way the ears go. I guess they're not ears. How would you describe that mask? I'm curious, because they're not. Go ahead.
I believe Zinda Blake in the Birds of Prey comic called it the Horned Devil mask.
Well, it gives the right kind of shadow at any rate.
Yeah, I just personally call it the Huntress mask.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, that's what I've got. Ashford, you want to tell people where they can contact us so we can have some more people write in?
Yes, and we would love for that to happen so all of the Huntress lovers, we can all be involved in this conversation. Write to us at the website, thehuntress.podcast.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Huntress Podcast. We're on Spotify. And remember, this is a dual feed with the Batgirl Cassandra Cain podcast. You can really support us by going to Apple Podcasts, subscribing to the show. If you would like to be a Patreon, go to patreon.com/Rights on Network. That is WRIGHT on Network. So until next time, this has been Diane, Laurel, and myself, Ashford. Bye-bye.